Have you heard about DeepSeek's new AI model that's shaking up the whole industry?
Yeah, it's been all over the news, right? What's the big deal with it?
So, get this. DeepSeek, a Chinese AI startup, managed to develop an AI model that's rivaling OpenAI's GPT models, but they did it for just $6 million. Yeah,
No
it's
way.
like a fraction of what companies like OpenAI are spending.
That's insane. How did they pull that off?
Well, they had to innovate because of US export controls on advanced chips. They couldn't get the latest NVIDIA GPUs, so they optimized their model to work efficiently with less powerful hardware. It's
Interesting.
like necessity drove their innovation.
So they're basically getting similar results without the cutting edge tech?
Exactly. And it's causing quite a stir in Silicon Valley. Companies are reevaluating their strategies.
Yeah,
I mean, if DeepSeek can do it for a fraction of the cost, what does that say about the big players?
it's like they're being upstaged.
Totally. And you know what's crazy? Nvidia's market value took a hit. Almost $600 billion
Wow,
wiped off in a day. Investors are spooked because DeepSeek's approach might reduce the demand for high-end chips.
that's a massive impact. But isn't there also concern about data privacy and censorship with a Chinese AI model?
Yeah, that's a big talking point. DeepSeek's app reportedly censors topics like Tiananmen Square and Taiwan's status.
Right.
So there's apprehension about using it without knowing how the data is being handled.
Makes sense. Users want transparency, especially with sensitive data.
Exactly. And while the open source nature of DeepSeek's model allows developers to modify it, the average user might still get the censored version.
Yeah.
So there are definitely concerns there.
Do you think this will push Western companies to adopt more open source approaches?
It's possible. With DeepSeek making waves, companies like Meta might lean more into open source to foster innovation.
Right.
Competition can drive change after all.
Speaking of competition, did you see that even Sam Altman from OpenAI acknowledged DeepSeek's model?
Yeah, he called it impressive, but mentioned that OpenAI plans to release even better models. It's like a friendly rivalry, but the heat is on.
Definitely raises the stakes. But with AI development costs potentially coming down, could we see more startups entering the field?
Absolutely. Lower barriers to entry mean more players can innovate without needing billions in funding. It
Yeah,
democratizes the field in a way.
that's exciting but also a bit daunting. More players could mean more challenges in terms of regulation and ethics.
True, and that's where governance comes in. Ensuring AI is developed responsibly is crucial, especially with
Right.
concerns about misuse or unintended consequences.
On that note, what about the potential impact on jobs? Automation could accelerate with more efficient AI.
Yeah, some experts predict significant changes by 2025. Tasks that are repetitive or administrative could be automated, but it also opens up new opportunities in overseeing AI systems.
That's a good point. Adaptation is key. As some jobs evolve or disappear, new roles will emerge.
Exactly. It's like when we transitioned from horses to cars. Some jobs became obsolete, but new industries
Yeah.
blossomed. History shows we tend to adapt.
Still, there's always that initial fear of the unknown.
Of course, and with AI advancing rapidly, it's understandable. But with proper regulation and ethical considerations, we can harness it for good.
Right.
It's about steering the technology responsibly.
Speaking of regulation, do you think governments are keeping up?
Well, some are trying. There are calls for better AI governance to address issues like bias, privacy, and security,
Yeah.
but technology often outpaces legislation.
That's true. We need agile policies that can adapt to rapid technological changes.
Exactly. And international cooperation could help, considering AI's global impact.
Right.
It's not just about one country anymore. It's a worldwide concern.
On the flip side, the competition between countries can spur innovation. The so-called AI race between the US and China.
Yeah, but it also raises tensions. Some worry about geopolitical risks, especially if critical technologies are controlled by rival nations. It's a
Yeah.
delicate balance.
And then there's cybersecurity. With AI tools becoming more advanced, could they be used maliciously?
That's a valid concern. AI can be a double-edged sword. It depends on who's using it and for what purpose.
Right.
Organizations need to be vigilant about how they implement AI tools.
Agreed. Education is crucial, not just for tech professionals, but for everyday users.
Definitely. People need to understand the implications of using AI, what data they're sharing, and how to protect themselves.
Yeah.
It's about digital literacy in the age of AI.
So, circling back, do you think DeepSeek's rise is a wake-up call for the industry?
Absolutely. It's highlighting the need for efficiency, innovation, and perhaps a rethink of how we've been doing
Right.
things. It's a nudge to not become complacent.
Maybe even more than a nudge.
Haha, true. It's more like a shove. But in the end, it could lead to exciting advancements and better technologies for everyone.
Yeah.
Here's hoping it steers us in a positive direction.
Wait, DeepSeek, the Chinese startup? What's going on?
Yeah, that's the one. They've developed an AI model that's comparable to ChatGPT, but get this, they did it
Seriously?
for only 6 million.
Whoa, seriously, that's like a
Yeah,
fraction of what OpenAI spent.
exactly. OpenAI pours billions into their models,
Right.
and DeepSeek managed to match their performance at a tiny fraction of the cost.
That's incredible. How did they pull that off?
Well, they had to get creative. With U.S. export controls blocking access to advanced chips, they innovated using less powerful hardware. It's like
Interesting.
they turned a disadvantage into an advantage.
So they made a top-tier AI without the latest NVIDIA chips?
Exactly. They used
Wow.
older NVIDIA chips and optimized their training methods, and they've also open sourced their model.
Wait, open source so anyone can use it?
Yeah, that's the game changer. Developers worldwide can access, modify, and build upon their model. It's challenging the big players like OpenAI, which keep their models proprietary.
That's a big deal. But aren't there concerns about using AI tech from China?
Well, yeah, there are some worries about data security and censorship. The
Mhm.
DeepSeek app, for example, won't answer questions about topics sensitive to the Chinese government.
Oh, so if you ask about Tiananmen Square or Taiwan, it'll avoid the topic.
Exactly. But here's the thing, since it's open source, people can download the model and, tweak it to remove those restrictions.
Got it. That's fascinating, but do you think users will feel comfortable using a Chinese AI model?
That's the big question. Some might hesitate due to privacy concerns, but the allure of a high-performing, low-cost AI is hard to ignore.
True. Yeah, especially since it's apparently outpacing competitors. How are the US companies reacting?
Well, even Sam Altman from OpenAI praised DeepSeek's model, calling
Really?
it impressive, but it's also like a wake-up call for the US tech industry.
I bet. And didn't President Trump comment on this too?
He did. He called it a wake-up call, saying the
Interesting.
US needs to be laser-focused on competing in AI.
So we're seeing a real AI arms race here.
Absolutely, and it's not just about
Yeah,
technology, it's about geopolitics, economics, the whole package.
but here's a thought. Do you think this might push US companies to be more open source?
Possibly. The open source approach allows for faster innovation through collaboration.
Exactly.
Maybe it's time for US companies to, reconsider their strategies.
But wouldn't that risk their competitive edge?
Well, they might lose some proprietary control, but the
True.
benefits of community development could outweigh that. It's like when Meta open sourced their El Llama model.
Right, but there's also the concern about regulation and security. Open sourcing might make it easier for malicious actors to misuse AI.
That's true. It's a
Makes
delicate
sense.
balance between openness and security. But DeepSeek's success shows that innovation can happen outside the traditional big budget model.
It's kind of inspiring, actually.
Yeah, it's like David and Goliath. DeepSeek didn't have the resources of OpenAI, but they found a way.
Incredible. But what about the impact on companies like NVIDIA?
Well, their stock took a hit. Nearly 600 billion wiped off their market value in one day.
Ouch. That's massive.
Yeah, but Nvidia's CEO even praised DeepSeek, calling it an excellent
Really?
advancement. Yeah, because lower cost AI models could drive more AI adoption, which in turn could benefit Nvidia in the long run.
I see. So it's not all doom and gloom for them.
Exactly, but it's shaking things up for sure.
This also raises questions about the future of AI development. Do we need to spend billions, or can smaller players compete effectively?
That's the $1 million, or should I say $6 million question. It's like the playing field is leveling. Smaller players might now have a shot.
But we still have to consider the ethical implications, especially with AI models that could be influenced by government censorship.
Absolutely. Transparency and governance become even more critical.
Agreed. So where do you think this leaves us in the AI race?
Well, it's accelerating. The US needs to rethink its approach, perhaps invest in more open source initiatives, and
Right.
focus on efficient innovation.
And maybe collaborate more globally.
Right. After all, advancements in AI benefit everyone if done responsibly.
Exactly. It's an exciting time, but also one that requires careful navigation.
Definitely. We'll have to keep an eye on how this unfolds.
For sure. Well, thanks for bringing this up. It's been a fascinating discussion.
Yeah, glad we could dive into it. Let's stay tuned for what's next.
Absolutely. It's incredible how they've come out of nowhere. What's making it so groundbreaking?
Well, they developed an AI model that rivals OpenAI's GPT models, but get this, they did it with just $6 million.
Wait, only 6 million? That's like a fraction of what others are spending.
Exactly. Companies like OpenAI are pouring billions into AI development, and DeepSeek managed to achieve comparable results on a shoestring budget.
That's mind-blowing. How did they pull that off?
So it's like they focused on efficiency over sheer power. They couldn't access the latest NVIDIA chips due to export controls, so they innovated with what they had.
Oh, right, because of those US sanctions, they had to use less advanced hardware.
Exactly. And they optimized their training methods to make the most of it. Plus, they used open source technology, which is, a big shift from the proprietary models we're used to.
That explains the lower cost. But doesn't open source make it more accessible for everyone?
Yes, and that's part of the buzz. DeepSeek R1 is fully open source, so developers worldwide can download, modify, and improve it. It's democratizing AI in a way we haven't seen before.
But what about the big players? How are OpenAI and others reacting to this?
Well, Sam Altman from OpenAI actually praised DeepSeek's model, calling it impressive.
Really?
But he also mentioned that OpenAI plans to release even better models soon.
Sounds like friendly competition, but I bet there's some concern under the surface.
Definitely. In fact, NVIDIA's stock took a hit. They lost nearly $600 billion in market value in one day.
Wow, that's huge. So investors are worried that cheaper AI models might reduce demand for high-end chips.
Exactly. If you can train advanced AI on less powerful hardware, it could disrupt the entire hardware market.
But hold on, isn't there a concern about data security and censorship since DeepSeek is from China?
That's a valid point. The DeepSeek app and their hosted model do have censorship. You can't ask about topics like Tiananmen Square.
So if I download the open source model and run it myself, does it still have those restrictions?
Interestingly, yes. Even when self-hosted, the base model has some built-in censorship. But since it's open source, developers can fine-tune it to remove those limitations.
I see. But for the average user, they might be getting filtered information without realizing it.
Exactly. It's something users need to be aware of. And it raises questions about how much government influence is embedded in these models.
That's a bit concerning. But do you think this will push US companies to change their strategies?
I think so. DeepSeek's approach challenges the idea that bigger budgets lead to better AI. US companies might need to focus more on efficiency and perhaps embrace open source principles.
But won't that hurt their bottom line if they're sharing their tech openly?
Well, it's a trade-off. Open source can drive innovation by fostering community collaboration. It might actually lead to better products in the long run.
That's true. Look at how Linux changed the software world.
Exactly. And with AI, the stakes are even higher. We're talking about the future of technology and global leadership in AI.
Speaking of global leadership, how has the US government reacted to DeepSeek's rise?
Former President Trump called it a wake-up call for US industries, saying we need to be laser-focused on competing to win.
Well, that's a strong statement. Do you think it's just rhetoric, or will it lead to actionable changes?
Hard to say, but it's clear that there's growing concern about maintaining AI dominance. It might spur more investment and possibly regulatory changes.
But isn't there a risk of over-regulating and stifling innovation?
Absolutely. Finding the balance is tricky. Too much regulation could slow down progress, but lax policies might lead to security risks.
It's like walking a tightrope, but back to DeepSeek, how are users reacting to it?
Well, the app became the most downloaded free app in the US, overtaking even ChatGPT.
No way.
The demand was so high they had to pause registrations at one point.
That's impressive, but they also faced a cyber attack, didn't they?
Yes, they reported a large-scale malicious attack, which fueled some conspiracy theories about who might be behind it.
Let me guess, fingers were pointed at the US?
Exactly, but there's no solid evidence supporting that. It's just speculation at this point.
Well, with all this happening, where do you think the AI race is headed?
I think we're entering a new phase where efficiency and accessibility are becoming as important as raw power.
So, do you think smaller players have a chance now?
Definitely. If DeepSeek can achieve this on a limited budget, it opens doors for startups and smaller companies to innovate and compete.
That could democratize AI development, making it less about who has the deepest pockets.
Exactly, and that could accelerate innovation across the board.
But what about the ethical implications? With more players, isn't there a higher risk of misuse?
That's a valid concern. It underscores the need for robust ethical guidelines and international cooperation.
Agreed. So, wrapping up, what's your take on DeepSeek's impact?
I think it's a game changer. It challenges existing models, prompts a reevaluation of strategies, and could potentially reshape the AI landscape.
It's exciting and a bit unnerving at the same time.
Exactly. We're witnessing a pivotal moment in technology. It's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Well, here's to the future and all the surprises it holds.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, so DeepSeek, a Chinese startup, just launched an AI model that they claim rivals OpenAI's GPT-4. But get this, they developed it for just $6 million. Yeah,
No
compared
way.
to OpenAI spending billions, it's mind-blowing.
That's insane. How did they manage to pull that off?
They had to innovate with less. Due to US sanctions, they couldn't access the latest NVIDIA chips, so they used less powerful hardware and optimized
Right,
their
they
algorithms.
made do with what they had.
It's like winning a race with a bicycle while everyone else is driving sports cars.
Haha, that's a great analogy. So, necessity really is the mother of invention.
Exactly. And not only that, but their model is open source.
Really?
Yeah, anyone can download it, modify it, and build upon it.
That's a game changer. OpenAI has been moving towards closed models lately.
Right? It's ironic. DeepSeek is embracing openness, while OpenAI is becoming more proprietary. It's a reversal of roles.
Do you think this will pressure OpenAI to open up again?
Possibly, but it's complicated. Commercial interests often push companies towards closed systems.
True.
But the tech community values openness.
Speaking of commercial interests, how about NVIDIA's situation?
Oh man, their stock took a massive hit. Almost $600 billion wiped out in a day.
That's
All
unprecedented.
because DeepSeek showed you don't need the latest NVIDIA chips to build powerful AI models.
So, are we seeing a shift in the AI hardware landscape?
Seems like it. If you can achieve top-tier AI performance without the most advanced hardware, it lowers the barriers to entry significantly.
That could democratize AI development.
Exactly. More players can enter the field, leading to more innovation.
But
There's a flip side.
what's that?
Well, security concerns. DeepSeek is a Chinese company, and there are worries about data privacy and potential government oversight. And their app
That's
is
true.
censored, right?
Yeah, I heard you can't ask it about Tiananmen Square or other sensitive topics.
Exactly. The app provided by DeepSeek filters out politically sensitive
But-
content. Interestingly, since it's open source, you can run the model yourself and remove those restrictions.
So developers could use it uncensored if they self-host?
Right. But the average user using the app would still face those limitations. So it's
Makes
both
sense.
an opportunity and a challenge.
Do you think people will trust a Chinese AI model?
Trust is a big issue. Some might be hesitant due to concerns over data privacy and surveillance.
Yeah.
Others might not care if the performance is good.
It's a bit like the TikTok situation. Great app, but concerns over data.
Exactly. And it's funny because DeepSeek has overtaken ChatGPT as the top free app in the US. That's significant.
Really? So despite concerns, users are flocking to it.
Seems that way. And even Sam Altman from OpenAI acknowledged DeepSeek's model is impressive. It pushes everyone to
competition is
improve.
good. But do you think OpenAI can match DeepSeek's efficiency?
They might have to rethink their approach. Throwing more money at the problem isn't always the solution.
True.
Innovation under constraints can lead to breakthroughs.
That's like when NASA had to improvise during the Apollo 13 mission. They had limited resources and had to make things work.
Exactly. Constraints can fuel creativity.
But
the question is, will big companies like OpenAI embrace that?
good point. Maybe they're too big to pivot quickly.
Possibly. Meanwhile, DeepSeek is shaking things up. And then there's the political angle.
Oh,
President
right.
Trump calling it a wake-up call.
Yeah, he announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure.
But is that the right move? Just throwing money at it? Maybe we need a
I'm
different
not so sure.
strategy.
Like what?
Fostering open source development, supporting startups, and encouraging collaboration.
That makes sense.
Creating an ecosystem that nurtures innovation.
But then there's the concern about security and controlling technology.
Agreed. It's a balance. But overregulating could stifle innovation.
Definitely.
We need to find the sweet spot.
It's a tough challenge, but competition from DeepSeek could be the push we need.
I think so. It's a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere.
Exactly.
We can't rest on our laurels.
Speaking of which, do you think Europe might join the race now?
That's an interesting thought. If DeepSeek can do it with less, maybe Europe can catch up too. It
Maybe.
could level the playing field.
But Europe has been lagging in AI.
True, but with lower costs and open source models, barriers are reduced.
Right.
Perhaps this is the chance they've been waiting for.
Let's hope so. More players mean more innovation.
Absolutely, and ultimately that benefits everyone. We don't address the
Unless-
security concerns.
Back to that. So how do we ensure safety while fostering innovation?
Tough question. Maybe through international collaboration and standards.
Possibly.
But geopolitics complicates things.
No doubt. Trust issues between nations make cooperation hard.
Exactly. But perhaps the tech community can bridge some gaps.
I hope so.
Technology should unite us, not divide us.
Agreed. So what's your final take on DeepSeek, good or bad?
I think it's both a challenge and an opportunity. It
Fair
pushes us to innovate and be cautious at the same time.
Well said. The future of AI just got a lot more interesting.
Couldn't agree more. We're living in exciting times. Let's see where this
Absolutely.
AI race takes us.
Hopefully to a better future for everyone.
That's the goal. Let's stay optimistic. Here's to innovation.
Definitely. Pieces, what's so special about it?
Well, it's a Chinese AI startup that developed an AI model that's like on par with OpenAI's GPT-4, but
Really?
here's the kicker. They did it for just $6 million.
Wait, hold on. 6 million? That's a fraction of what OpenAI spent.
Exactly. OpenAI spent billions and DeepSeek comes along and says, hey, we can do this for peanuts. It's unbelievable.
That's wild. How did they manage that?
They apparently used fewer resources by innovating new training techniques. And get this, they couldn't even access the latest NVIDIA chips because
way.
of US export controls. So they used less powerful hardware and still pulled it off.
That's impressive. So does that mean the US's strategy to slow down China's AI progress backfired?
Kind of seems that way, doesn't it? The restrictions forced them to be more efficient, and
Right.
now they've developed an AI that's shaking up the industry.
So what does this mean for companies like OpenAI and NVIDIA?
Well, it's causing a lot of concern. NVIDIA's market value took a hit, a massive one. I heard they lost close to $600 billion in market value in a day.
Wow.
That's the biggest one-day loss in US stock market history.
That's insane. All because of DeepSeek?
Yeah, investors are spooked. If DeepSeek can develop powerful AI without the latest chips, it raises questions about the future of the hardware market and AI development costs.
But is DeepSeek's model really that good? I mean, how does it compare to GPT-4?
From what I've heard, it holds up pretty well on certain benchmarks, and it's open source, so developers can download it, modify it, and use it for their own applications. That's a big deal.
Interesting. Open source? That's a different approach than OpenAI's proprietary models.
Exactly. And that's part of what's causing such a buzz. DeepSeek is making advanced AI accessible to more people and at a lower cost.
But what about the potential downsides? I mean, it's a Chinese company. Are there concerns about data privacy or censorship?
That's a valid point. DeepSeek's app reportedly censors certain topics, like Tiananmen Square or Taiwan's independence. So if you're using their app or website, you might get filtered information.
So there could be issues with biased information or even surveillance.
Yeah, that's a concern. But since their model is open source, developers elsewhere can adapt it and remove those restrictions. Right. So the core technology can be used without those limitations.
Still, it's something users need to be aware of.
Definitely. But it also puts pressure on US companies to rethink their strategies.
Exactly.
I mean, should they make their models open source too?
That could level the playing field, but would they want to give up their competitive advantage?
That's the dilemma. Sam Altman from OpenAI even acknowledged DeepSeek's model, calling it impressive.
Really?
But he also said OpenAI plans to deliver better models.
So it's heating up the competition. But do you think the US will change its approach?
Well, President Trump actually called DeepSeek's release a wake-up call. He said the US needs to be laser-focused on competing to win.
Makes sense.
So maybe we'll see more investment in AI infrastructure.
But isn't he the one who imposed the export controls that might have backfired?
Yeah, that's the irony. The controls were meant to slow down China's AI progress, but they might have actually spurred more innovation.
Right.
Necessity is the mother of invention, after all.
So where does this leave Europe in the AI race?
Interesting question. Europe's been lagging, but if DeepSeek can develop advanced AI at a lower cost, maybe European companies can too. It could be a chance for Europe to catch up.
But do they have the same level of investment and infrastructure?
They might not, but the lowering of the barrier to entry could help. Plus, open source models make it more accessible.
True. But going back to DeepSeek, what about the quality of their AI? Is it really as good as GPT-4?
Well, some tests show it's comparable in certain areas, especially in reasoning tasks. They use a technique called chain of thought processing, which allows the AI to think step by step, like humans.
That's impressive. So not only is it cheaper, but it might also be more efficient.
Exactly. And that's what's forcing the industry to reevaluate its assumptions. If DeepSeek can do this with less, maybe others can too.
Do you think this could democratize AI development?
Possibly. Lower costs means smaller startups could enter the field, leading to more innovation.
That'd be great.
It could break the dominance of the big players.
But with open source models, isn't there a risk of misuse?
That's always a concern. Open source can be a double-edged sword. It promotes collaboration, but can also be used maliciously.
Exactly. So how should we balance innovation with security?
That's a tough question. Maybe through responsible AI policies and regulations that don't stifle innovation, but ensure ethical use.
Makes sense. Do you think the US should relax some of its regulations to stay competitive?
Possibly. Some argue that overregulation could hinder progress. If the US doesn't adapt, it might fall behind.
But isn't regulation important to ensure AI is developed responsibly?
That's a good point. We definitely don't want to sacrifice ethics and safety for the sake of competition.
Exactly.
So maybe the solution is finding a balance.
Right? And perhaps investing more in responsible AI initiatives.
Yeah, that could help. Fostering innovation while keeping an eye on ethical considerations.
Yeah, it's a complex issue, but exciting times ahead.
No doubt about it. Can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too.